Hello, everyone. I'm back at the Good Place bench here in Marrakech, and I'm still grateful being part of this beautiful conference of urban health. And I'm joined here by most likely the most colorful person I've had on the bench so far. I'm not sure if that's going to be beaten by anyone, but good luck. Here, joined by Tolullah, and don't know much about you. So it's an interesting endeavor to dive in to get to know you and listen to what work you do in creating a good place. So welcome again. Please introduce yourself and tell us a bit more about what brought you to Marrakech.
Okay. Are you going to hold it or should I?
You can.
Okay, I'll hold it.
Hold the freedom.
I am Tolullah. So that I don't just say boring things, I will describe myself in 3 words. I would say I am a physician, I am a scholar or researcher, and I'm a runner.
A runner.
So let's take each one of them at a time.
Okay.
And then I'll come back to you. I got this now. Okay. So physician. So I'm a trained medical doctor, but my specialty is public health, which means I'm certainly focused on place and on creating health rather than treating disease. So I see myself very much fundamentally as a practitioner in that sense, but rather than treat individuals, I treat cities.
Right.
So I see cities as my patients, if you like, right? And so the whole process of diagnosing, treating, and checking up is a similar method, but at a city level.
Wow.
I'm a scholar, so I'm a researcher. I'm a professor at University of Cambridge, and my chair is in Global Public Health and Sustainable Urban Development. And that, if I'm the most colourful person, I was also vying for the longest chair title. But it really does describe what I do. So I work in cities across the world at the intersection of health, climate, particularly focused on environments that influence the air we breathe, the ways we move, and the food we eat, because that's what we consider as, that's what we see as necessary for healthy climate resilient cities.
Yep.
And the last point is I'm a runner, and that really has shaped my perception of cities. So when I talk about what a good city is very much one that I can run through by myself as a woman, even in the evening, where I'm not worrying about my health or risk to my health in running. And those 3 things have influenced and shaped the organization I founded called UrbanBetter. And that's a social venture really looking at accelerating healthy, sustainable urban development. In other words, to make the urban better. So you say good, I say better.
And it's quite a coincidence because I came across your organization already, and I was like, wow, I need to talk to them. I know, not knowing who was who, and also the what was that citizens.
Yeah.
Dot Urban Better. I was like, wow, what a cool initiative. And now I just find out it's you. It was meant to be.
There you go.
I love the approach, by the way, from a running point of view, whether it's professional or just
Definitely not professional.
better not professional. Because I'm also a runner. I love to run.
I'm a runner like a karaoke singer is a singer.
Okay. So then the city needs to be aware of how and where you run.
Yeah.
And I also get more conscious about the cityscape and when you run, and if you take that to more your profession. So I love it. Thank you so much for sharing that. Which of the 3 you enjoy most?
Oh, that's not fair. That's not fair at all. Different things.
Let's put it that way. Not so much what you like most. What are you most passionate about?
That's not helpful.
What Which came first of all the three of them?
Physician.
Okay.
So I trained as a doctor before I was a runner.
Okay.
But I became much more passionate about doctoring when I became a city doctor, right? So when I understood that what my practice was, right?
Yeah.
That it wasn't at the individual level. And I do love that embeddedness of that, being able to sense my patient in a way. I live in, that sounds a bit creepy if I say I live like a pill in my patient, but I read. Yeah. But
You can identify yourself with.
Yes, exactly. I have empathy for my patient in a way that is very real. And running, I think, just reminds me of the equity dimension of what I do, right? Because I go, traveling either for work or pleasure in a city that I don't know.
Yeah.
And you go for a run, and even without knowing what neighborhood is what,
Yeah.
you sense when you shift into a higher income area, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't even realize it. If you're in a hot country, your shoulders drop a little bit because there's a little bit of tree cover and there's a bit of shade. The air smells and feels a bit different. Your eyes stop getting a little bit whatever. You're slightly less on alert because you're trying to not get run over. And all of these things happen instantly and subconsciously. Yeah. And what you feel is just this feels nice, right? Mm-hmm.
Or the opposite.
Or the opposite, right? Where you suddenly realize, you think, I can remember running through a city.
It's tough on my breathing.
Yeah, exactly. Like where am I? How can I get home as quickly as possible? But it's so that bit for me is a reminder of the equity dimension of what I do and why it's important that when we're talking about a good place or a better urban, that we're ensuring that is for all and not just for some.
Beautifully, yeah. And did you go for a run in Marrakech?
I haven't yet. Just they've been working as super hard here.
There's no time.
Yeah, but tomorrow is my running day.
Okay, great. I might check in with you on how it went. But especially as we discussed as a city doctor, you've really focused on being a city doctor for particular cities, right? Could you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, so a lot of my focus, I work in cities across the world, but I have strong focus on cities across the African continent. Yep. And the reason is, apart from the fact that I'm Nigerian, as you can tell.
Yeah.
You didn't ask the obligatory question, who are you wearing?
No. Who are you wearing?
Nigerian.
You can put something in the caption below if you want.
Yeah, right. Like Oasis Creations. But it is the fastest urbanizing region, right? So what we're seeing is cities growing and existing cities growing and new cities mushrooming at just a ridiculous pace. And so what seems like chaos I see as opportunity, because it's a lot easier in chaos when things are moving. It's a lot easier to lay down and experiment with new ways of doing than in cities that already exist, when we say, how do we move this immovable thing here? That's been here for hundreds of years, how can we move over here to make it more climate resilient or better? And so I work in cities across the continent for that reason. Yeah. The other reason is because it's the youngest continent. It has the largest cohort of young people in history. The median age is 19. Right?
Really?
So we have 75% of people under 30, under 35, right?
Wow.
By comparison, Europe, where I live in London, the median age is 42, right? So we have just an incredible demographic dividend of young people who are, from the perspective of people who are actually can shape a new way of being and of doing, but also from a life course, from a health perspective, a lot of the issues and health issues that people face later in life start in childhood and start in adolescence. So if we're not ensuring that we are creating healthier and more climate resilient environments for the young this young population to live in, we're pushing them into disease, right, in earlier stages. So there's a real opportunity to intervene to reduce the health need, the need for health care, right? And it should be easier in a population that is younger, right? So we have that advantage. So the urgency and the potential are the reasons I focus a lot of my work on the continent.
And how do you make youngsters more either active or feel responsible about that, about this topic?
You don't ask them that question because
No, I'm asking you.
you know, it's not necessary.
Okay.
They're just people already. You start with the assets. You start where you're strong, and they're people who are already. Or you know, I had a project a few years ago before we started UrbanBetter and before the Citizens Project, where we wanted to understand how people are using public space for physical activity in order to recommend interventions that, you know, and look at what the issues they're facing, and in order to recommend interventions that at least let's start with those minority of people, you know, and let's start with this. And one of the things I found is that, you know what, there's huge unmet demand. We found that people were claiming public space. I saw somebody in the middle of a roundabout with a green space, super busy doing push-ups and doing that kind of stuff. You know, people are claiming public space in ways that are not designed for, because they want spaces to be physically active. And that's not just running, it is walking and cycling, it is just being in public space, and it's meeting people to connect. But they're not doing it, and they're not being visible is often a reaction to environments that are not conducive. And so starting with people who are already doing things and saying how can that be a more pleasurable experience, and having them be the ambassadors and be the evangelists to say, come, let's do this. And this is the crux of the Citizens Endeavor, right? We say we want to ensure we can we're generating data about the city or knowledge about the city in ways that are relevant. So this is why we take a citizen science approach, because we're democratizing that knowledge production. But you're doing it in a way that is fun, right? That is actually engaging in a healthy behavior. And by doing that, you understand the issue a lot more differently than, let's sit them down, let's give them a lecture about why health is important. And so I've not had to.
You make them part of the solution.
And you work on just the infrastructure, the base that supports what they're doing already, and they'll drive and they'll tell you what's important, and they will shape it in ways that are much more effective and much more impactful than you could ever dream. So I've not been in a city where I've had to go and say, can I find some young people to convince them? It's not really.
You're standing in line.
Whether it's because they're already active in physical activity, whether it's because they're already climate advocates, whether it's because they're already health advocates, we have to have these multiple entry points. Because often I've heard somebody say in a young city, like, we try to engage young people, and they weren't interested. And you have to ask yourself, well, what were you dangling? What were you offering, right? Were you putting in a language that they understand? Or did you say, come participate in my research that is on, it's like, why would I? Or did you say, so did you take, or also, are you the right messenger? It might be the message, it might be the messenger. So, because I cannot believe, because in the same city that, he was talking about, I've been, and I know lots of young people that engage in the space. So it might be the message or it might be the messenger. So aligning both, you'll find the people that are doing this. Really.
And to stay also like in a running metaphor, it's not only about a sprint, perhaps not even a marathon, maybe it's about creating a relay, that these youngsters are also the ones that are going to pass it on.
Oh, that's really nice. I'm going to tell the Lagos Citizen Hub about this, coordinator about this, because in one of their campaigns, because what they do is they get equipped and then they design activations, they collect data, and then they use that to inform their campaigns. And one of their campaigns was a relay. I love puns. I love that. Okay, do you want to hear a couple? We run experiments. Even the word citizen is city with a Y.
Yeah.
You know, so we have we definitely work with puns, but it really much even the running long, right? So it's not a sprint, as you say. Our mission to try and create healthier, climate-resilient cities is not a sprint. You'll burn out.
Yeah.
It's a marathon. It's an ultra marathon, and you do that by pacing yourself, by training, by building tapping into a movement of people who kind of, you slipstream on each other from time to time. And you have to do that, and you tap in, you tap out, and you build unlikely coalitions of people doing different things, so that some person comes with this is a diet we should be eating. Someone says, oh, actually, I've got the right shoes we should be wearing. And, you have lots of different expertise.
Everybody pitches in.
Everybody pitches in, and that's what we need.
I need to get more embedded into your project, because it sounds amazing.
Come on board.
Yeah, please.
That's it,
Yeah, okay, good. You sit on my bench, I sit on your bench. That's how it works. And the final question of every interview is, of course, this question about what is a good place to you? And what should we all do to make our place a good place, or a better?
I'm going to end with better. Good is not good enough. A good place is a place that is better.
Should be called differently.
I think I'll go back to where I started, that a good place for me is one where I can breathe, and I or anyone, and not irrespective of creed, race, gender, whatever, can breathe clean air, can be physically active, whether it is I can get from A to B with walking, cycling as much as I want to, or go for a run or cycle for leisure, and where I have easy access to healthy food, so that the healthy choice is the easy choice. That for me is a good place.
Thank you so much, Tolullah, for this fun and colorful conversation. And shake your hand. Thank you so much. We gotta drop all the information below in the caption so people can check it out. And wishing you an amazing run tomorrow in Marrakech.
Thank you. Look forward to it. Hopefully it doesn't rain. Or maybe it does rain. We want some rain.
Who knows? Maybe better even.
Yeah, it'll be better.
Thanks, guys.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.